Hospital roommate called me ugly. I shut her up. When I was a sophomore in college, my appendix randomly exploded. Like, I went from eating pizza in my dorm to being rushed to the emergency room in an ambulance. They had to do emergency surgery, but because it had already ruptured, I got all these infections and had to stay in the hospital for like 2 weeks. The first few days were absolutely miserable. I couldn't eat anything. I had this IV pole that I had to drag everywhere. I looked like death. My hair was greasy. I had no makeup on, and I was wearing these awful hospital gowns that made everyone look terrible. They put me in a shared room with this older Russian woman named Olga who had just gotten gastric bypass surgery. She seemed nice enough at first. We didn't really talk much. I'd just watch TV quietly, and she'd sleep most of the day. My mom would come visit me after work and we'd chat for a bit, nothing too loud. I tried to be super respectful because I knew Olga was recovering too. Here's the thing though, my bathroom was on her side of the room, so every time I needed to use it, I had to wheel my IV pole past her bed. I felt so bad about it, like I was disturbing her every time. So I tried to hold it as long as possible and move super quietly when I did have to go. But Olga had zero problem being loud. She'd talk on the phone with her daughter every single night, and I mean loud, like practically yelling into the phone. Her daughter must have been hard of hearing or something because Olga would just go on and on at full volume. Since Olga had heard me speaking English with my mom, she probably assumed I had no clue what she was saying, which would have been a fair assumption for most people. But here's what she didn't know. I had started taking Russian classes my freshman year. I wasn't fluent or anything, but I could understand bits and pieces of conversations. At first, I wasn't really paying attention to what she was saying. I figured it was just normal mom-daughter stuff. But then one night, about 5 days into my hospital stay, I'm lying there watching some cooking show, trying not to think about the fact that I haven't eaten real food in almost a week. Olga gets a call from her daughter. She answers it and starts talking in Russian like usual. Then I hear her say something about her room. I perk up a little because I catch a few words I recognize. She's talking about me. I stay super still and keep my eyes on the TV, but I'm listening hard now, trying to pick up what she's saying. Then I hear it clear as day. She tells her daughter that she doesn't have the room to herself anymore, that she has to share it with this girl. And then she says it. She calls me really ugly. I'm just lying there in my hospital bed looking awful because I literally almost died from a ruptured appendix, and this woman is on the phone trashing my appearance to her daughter in Russian right in front of me because she thinks I can't understand her. I wasn't even that offended, honestly. I knew I looked terrible. I had bigger things to worry about than whether some random woman thought I was pretty. But what really got me was the audacity. Like, who does that? Who sits there and insults their sick roommate on the phone loud enough for them to hear just because they think there's a language barrier? Plus, I was so bored. I'd been staring at the same 4 walls for days. This was the most interesting thing that had happened to me all week, and I wanted the satisfaction of letting her know that I understood every word. So I waited. I didn't say anything that night. I just filed it away and kept pretending I only spoke English. The next day, I waited for the perfect moment. That evening, I needed to use the bathroom. I grabbed my IV pole and started wheeling it toward her side of the room like I'd done 100 times before. But this time, as I passed her bed, I put on my sweetest, most polite smile, and in my best Russian accent, I said, "Izvinite." That's excuse me in Russian, the polite formal version. Olga's head snapped up so fast I thought she'd give herself whiplash. Her eyes went huge and her mouth dropped open. She just stared at me while I smiled and continued walking to the bathroom. I didn't say anything else, didn't call her out, didn't make a scene, just that one word to let her know I had understood everything. When I came back out, she was sitting up in her bed looking like she'd seen a ghost. She didn't say a word to me, didn't even make eye contact. The best part, she never called her daughter again the entire time I was in that room, not once. 4 more days I was there and her phone stayed silent. She knew I could understand every bitchy word she'd said, and she was too embarrassed to risk it again. When I finally got discharged, she was pretending to be asleep. I said goodbye in Russian just to twist the knife a little. She didn't respond.